Gratitude requires us to focus on what's good, but our next guest believes real gratitude can come from really hard places. BYU law professor Shima Baughman joining us in studio right now. And I gotta say, Shima, this whole conversation, this is something that sparked some time ago. What was it that kind of brought this conversation into play?
Yeah, so my kids, actually, I'm always trying to teach them to kind of protect God's creations. Like they like to, stomp out ants and like little, hurt animals. And I'm like, well, every creation of God has a purpose, and they're all, have, you just should preserve all of them as much as possible. And then my son always comes back, my 8-year-old Milo, and he's just like, well, what about wasps? They don't serve any good purposes, or mosquitoes. And so I had to, look them up, and I'm thinking, okay, no, wasps are actually really good at breaking down things, and mosquitoes are an important food source for lots of animals. But it got me thinking about this broader idea of, can we be grateful for the wasp and the mosquito, right, and their purposes they serve, even though for us they feel like such hard, just thorns in our sides.
I love how just sweet and innocent that comment brought this up. So it was an unexpected letter from a stranger that really allowed you to dive into this subject and put it into focus.
Yes, absolutely. So I got a letter this last week, actually, that I opened from an inmate in Arizona. He just told me a miraculous story about his being able to basically find God in prison. And so what happened with him is he had kind of lapsed from his faith growing up. He didn't really have any sort of faith tradition, but he said he was just writing on his desk thinking about God in his prison cell. And he said he had this kind of electrifying experience where he just felt this power, this energy that came to him, that he knew that God was aware of him.
Yeah, and I want to read that quote from that letter.
Yes.
So he wrote, "One moment I was fine, and the next it was like I had been struck by lightning. From the top of my head to the tips of my toes, his energy washed over me and made every hair on my body stand on end. Tears flooded my eyes. I could hardly breathe. It wasn't a quiet burning in the bosom. It was like a nuclear explosion in my chest. I felt alive." That really is such a vivid description.
Yeah.
What does that moment teach you about finding peace in prison, an unexpected place?
And that's the thing. It seems ironic. Like, how could you be happy in such a horrible place? But what Alex wrote me in this letter that was so surprising, he said God is in prison. And I've heard this from many people. If you know a lot of people that work in the prisons, or they'll tell you that. I mean, some people are obviously in real dark places, but those that find God, that are open to it. And Alex even said, he said, I've served 7 years, I have 1 more year. And he said, I don't want to leave this place. He's like, I'm worried I won't continue to find God when I leave, because I know God's here. And I've seen angels minister to people that I'm around. And I just think of how beautiful that is. It's the most dark place you could possibly imagine. I mean, he doesn't see trees. He doesn't get to play outside. He doesn't get to see anyone he wants. So many restrictions. Pretty much the most horrible thing we could all imagine. Yet he is at peace and found God.
That really is profound. Ultimately, he wasn't thankful for his suffering, but he wrote that he was thankful for the suffering revealed. He wrote, "No man or woman in prison is left unattended by angels when they want them. Prison is a great contradiction, standing in complete and utter contrast to God's design for his children. Yet here he manifests himself in powerful ways." Why do you think hardship opens this door to gratitude, like you said?
No, I think that's exactly it. I think the more I read from these experiences of people that are in these really dark places, finding so much peace and joy, not having anxiety, it just makes me think about my own life and the kind of things I sweat about and I get anxious about. And it gives me a broader perspective of and of more gratitude of what I have access to. Like, I can go out, take a walk outside. I mean, just those little things. And then it really reminds me that God's always there for me too. Even the times I think I can't reach him, or he feels silent to me.
Wow. So from this letter, what is a practical thing that we could take away from it, that we could start looking for gratitude in our lives in unexpected places? What would you gather from that?
So like the wasp bites, right? The mosquito bites, the thorns and the roses, those things are things that can actually bring you gratitude. And I think most people, when they go through those hard things, they go back and they're like, I'm most grateful for that. And it seems doesn't seem actually correct when you're thinking about going through that experience. When you have cancer, you're not like, I'm so grateful for my cancer. But it does end up in the long term being the thing that you're so grateful for. So the wasp bite that ends up blowing up your hand, which is what happens to me. It's like, I'm grateful for that because I now know not to do that.
No, what great perspective though. And then for you to receive that letter, did you feel like this was like an opening? I know with your experience in criminal law and things like that, and for this prisoner to reach out to you, how did that sit with you, just overall, now that you kind of sit back and think, wow, I received that message. It was for me.
Well, actually, it almost felt like a tender mercy for me as well, because I'm actually writing a book about happiness and how you find change, and focusing on inmates and kind of incarcerated people. And so I get this letter. I'm like, how you couldn't have articulated this better, this process of finding God from not having him at all in your life to just how it changes you. And so I think there's lessons I learn from that. When I seek God, when I seek the spiritual, my life goes so much better. And so I think for me, that gratitude comes from kind of seeking God and understanding that he's always there. And like if he's there to administer to the people in prison, and there's angels for all of them, then there's for sure angels for all of us.
You just got to go out and seek it.
That's right.
Shima, thank you so much. Where can we find more about you and your messages?
Thank you. I'm on Instagram, Shima Baughman, at Shima Baughman, or on TikTok for those of you that do TikTok too.
All right. We are grateful for you. Appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you, Tamara.